Today's webinar is about the leadership team tools and reports. And again, we're going to be going through some of the common tasks of leadership teams. So in order to get to some of these functions, it's important to know that we're going to have to go beyond the home page here in BNI Connect. Now, the home page here, it's important to know, is accessible only to members. And it's only accessible to yourself. So all of these things that we're doing on the home page, for example, entering referral slips and entering thank you for closed business slips and things like that, only a member can do that for themselves, and only a member can see their My BNI Business report here. So in order to get to some of the other functions, we're going to have to use some of these tools here along the top. So we have these menus along the top: Network, Operations, Reports, Tools, and Admin. And that is where all of those day-to-day functions are going to reside. Now, the way that I remember where to find things in BNI Connect is Network is going to be all of the kind of like the social media functions in BNI Connect. So it's going to be your groups, your connections, your testimonials, things like that. Operations and reports are really where the bulk of everything else is going to be. Operations is really the day-to-day management of your chapter and day-to-day, data entry and things like that. Reports, on the other hand, is always going to be read-only. So if we're going to input anything, we're going to be, for example, inputting the POMS report. Even though it is a report, because we're doing data input, we're going to go to operations. Whereas if we ever want to go and just, see a series of reports for a certain time period, we're going to go to the reports section. So let's take a look at the operations menu and see what things are there that we're going to be working with in the chapter. So if we go to Operations chapter, this will show us all of the regular day-to-day operations of running a BNI chapter. So you'll see down the left-hand side that we have a number of different options. We have Manage Visitors. So that's going to be all the different steps of the visitor process. Now, I'm not going to go into that too much today because I did go through the visitor process on yesterday's webinar, so you can always catch that recording as well if you want to on the support site or on the YouTube channel. Below Manage Visitors, we have Meeting Management. And this is where we're going to do the various tasks for the weekly meetings, where we can view any individual POMS report and or make edits or changes to them if we need to. We have the ability to enter a POMS report, and we can also view and edit the speaker rotation. Below that is Manage Memberships. So if you are in a region where the Secretary-Treasurer is entering applications and or managing the members, then you'll see these functions here. Now, I'm not going to cover that today because as of this time, there are fewer regions that are delegating that down to the chapter level. We have a goals program as well, so where you can enter chapter goals in and monitor those goals as your leadership team term goes on month by month. Now, we're going to be doing a webinar on that tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. So if you want to check out the chapter goals, we're going to dedicate a whole half hour to that tomorrow. Please join us. The mentoring program allows you to assign mentors and mentees to walk them through bringing a new member into the chapter and getting them through that critical first 60 days of their membership. Create Email has a couple of cool little tools that allow you to email your chapter and visitors. And finally, we have a news function. The news function is basically, it's a special page of your chapter website where you can allow multiple people to edit that one page without going into the full chapter website. Again, it's kind of a specialized function that I'm not going to touch today. So going back upwards, let's just take a look at some of the most common things that a leadership team will do. One place that I find myself always going to on a regular basis is this Create Email function. There's a couple of cool little functions here from a leadership team perspective. The first one is Email My Chapter. So a lot of times you may need to get a message out to your chapter for whatever reason. Let's say that you are having a visitors day and you want to remind your chapter to show up early to next week's meeting to make sure you're there to welcome all the visitors. Now, before BNI Connect, I remember I used to always have to go and just hit reply all to the last message that was sent. This is a better way to do it because this will always have the current list of members. In other words, it won't have the members that have dropped, and it will have the new members that have been added since. So if you click on Email My Chapter, this will give you that email list for your entire chapter. You can just copy this and paste it into your own email program. So you are going to have to use Outlook or Gmail or whatever email program it is. I do recommend putting it into the BCC line, give it a subject, type your message, and go ahead and send it. So that is different, by the way. This is actually sending a real email out. Some people have used this email function here. It's important to know that this messaging function is an internal BNI Connect message, meaning that if you send a message this way, people need to log into BNI Connect to read that. And just most everyday BNI members aren't logging into BNI Connect on a daily basis. And that's okay. They really only need to log in when they need to submit referrals and when they want to run reports and things like that. But in order to get an actual message out to your chapter, I recommend using the Email My Chapter function versus an internal message. The second function on here is really more of a member function. We did talk about this extensively yesterday on the visitors webinar, but this also gives you the ability to email a visitor invitation. So if your chapter is struggling with getting visitors, it's a great way to invite a visitor to a chapter meeting. You just need to put in their name, John Smith from Smith Co., and their email address. I'm going to use my own email address so you guys can see what this looks like. And a personal message. So it was great to meet you. I'd love to introduce you to my networking team. If I click send, it puts this into a nice, neat email package and immediately sends that out. So here's the message that gets sent out. A nice branded, well-written email that also allows the visitor to RSVP for the meeting. All right, let's take a look at some of these other functions that are here. So the visitor management function, again, that's really usually the visitor hosts and or the secretary treasurers. Have a couple of options under here. We can record a visitor after a meeting. We can manage visitors that have been to a meeting. We can register prospective visitors, so a visitor can register themselves through that RSVP in the email, or we can register a visitor for an upcoming meeting, and we can manage registered visitors and mark their attendance. So ideally, the flow is that a visitor is invited, they would then register themselves, then we can go in and manage those visitors and mark attendance. All we need to do is search for visitors that may have registered for the meeting. We can find that visitor, and this is a visitor that had registered for this morning's meeting. So I can go in, edit that visitor, and I can mark them as having attended. I just need to go through and fill out any missing details and click Submit. You'll notice that that visitor is now no longer registered. They will be under my chapter visitors. Now, if a visitor didn't register, it's important that they are added after the meeting. So you can either click the Add Visitor link here and fill out the information, or if we go back to Manage Visitors, this is where we would record a visitor after a meeting. Now, it's important to add visitors because that will be giving credit to the person that invited them in the POMS report. So let's take a look at this next thing down here, which is the meeting management function. Now, one of the most common functions is that on a weekly basis, usually the vice president will go in and have to enter a POMS report following the meeting. Now, even if you're using, if you are using the online SLIPS program, your job as a vice president is really, really easy because all you need to do is to go in and take attendance for the meeting. If you're using the paper slips to count all the activity, then that's something where you'll have to sort all the slips out, and we're going to enter all of the data into BNI Connect. So the way to enter a POMS report is we're going to go into Meeting Management and click on Enter POMS. Now, the first thing you'll be presented with is all of the visitors that have attended meetings since, or have been marked as attended meetings since the last time you entered a POMS report. So I can see here that Sally was entered, David was entered, and our ASFAD person was entered just now as well. So before continuing on to entering the POMS report, we do need to make decisions on these so that the POMS reports are updated. So I can see that they were invited by Jeremy and that Jeremy did the data entry on it. Do I want to add them to the POMS? I can say yes, yes, and yes. Once all those decisions have been made, I can then choose a meeting date that I want to do the data entry for. So let's say it was this morning's meeting, the 27th. I can choose Enter POMS. Now, essentially, entering POMS is really just filling out this giant spreadsheet. So the columns along the top here, we have our first and last name. POMS is the attendance status. So was the person present, absent, late, medical, or substitute? So P obviously is they were at the meeting. Absent means they just a no-show to the meeting. They did not have a substitute with them. L means they showed up after the start time of the meeting or after open networking has started. Medical leave is something that must be approved by the membership committee. It is important to know it is not that person had a cold and is just missing the one meeting. It's more of a long-term 4 to 8 week medical leave. And S means that they were not present themselves at the meeting, but they did send a substitute. So RGI and RGO, RRI, RRO, these all have to do with referrals. R stands for referrals. G stands for given. So RGI and RGO, referrals given. The last letter I and O. RGI means referrals given inside. So those are inside referrals. What an inside referral is when two members in the chapter do business with each other. So, for example, if in this particular chapter, if I personally, I'm in this chapter as Jeremy Walsh, if I used Marky Mark's services, so I had Marky Mark come and perform at my daughter's wedding, that would be an inside referral. I hired Marky Mark. So if that was the case, I would have given an inside referral, and Marky Mark would have received an inside referral because that's what RRI is, referrals received inside. On the other hand, if I had introduced, let's say, Ricky Martin here, so one of my friends, his daughter was having a bar mitzvah and they wanted Ricky Martin to perform at the bar mitzvah. That would have been an outside referral. I referred somebody else, somebody outside of the chapter, to Ricky Martin. So that would be an outside referral for me and an outside referral received for Ricky Martin. So there's always the two sides of that transaction. V is for visitors. You'll notice that once you've approved to the visitors, I was approved for 2 visitors for this meeting, so that automatically got put into the POMS report. All online slips would also be automatically put in. One-to-ones are when 2 members meet with each other. So if, let's say, Alfred E. Newman had a one-to-one with Vicky Hostarelli here, we would mark them both as having a one-to-one. Thank you for closed business, TYFCB, is when a business closes, you thank the person that generated the business. So if I had referred somebody to Art Garfunkel, that turned into $1,000 worth of business to Art's business. He would thank me for generating $1,000 for his business. Now, you do need to scroll over a little bit, but there's another column here, CEU, Chapter Education Units, and that's when you attend a webinar or go to a networking event, things like that. So we need to make sure that we put in the Chapter Education Units. You can also put any remarks. You know, great meeting today. Lots of energy. At the bottom, we have 4 different options. We have submit POMs, mark as holiday, save as draft, and discard. Submit POMs means that we're satisfied with our data entry. We're ready to close this report out and make it official. It'll now become part of all the statistics and everything. We just go ahead and click submit POMs. Mark as holiday. What that means is that your chapter didn't meet that week. So this might be, let's say, my chapter meets on Thursdays. Well, in the United States, Thanksgiving is always on a Thursday. A lot of chapters end up not meeting on Thursdays during Thanksgiving time. So what you need to do on a week that you don't meet is go in and mark that as a holiday. What that does is it closes that report out but doesn't count it towards any statistics. Also, if there were any online slips that were automatically entered, they would be pushed to next week's meeting. It's important to do that right away, when your chapter doesn't meet, just like you would if you were going back to close out a regular POMS report. Save as draft means I'm about to get distracted, but I need to save what I've done so far. And keep in mind that BNI Connect does have a 30-minute log out period. So if there's no activity on the screen for 30 minutes, BNI will shut down the session and close out. That means that if you haven't saved it, you will lose what you had entered. And finally, discard POMs means that I just want to start over again. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this. Are you sure? Okay. It's going to give me a review. And I can go ahead and click back. Or let's go back to the operations menu at this point. You'll notice that under operations, we also have, under meeting management, we have view POMs. So let's say that you make an error on one of your POMs reports, or you just want to view the data of an individual POMs report. You can go to view POMs summary. I just choose a date range. You can go back as far in time as you want to. And you can see all the different reports. Draft reports means that they were never completed. Hopefully you don't see any draft reports in there. I am working in Antarctica though, so we have some inconsistent reports in Antarctica. But if I wanted to, let's say that I made an error on the report this week, I can click on the word completed. That will bring me into the view of the report. And if I need to, I can click unlock in order to go back and edit it. And let's say that I forgot to mark Bob Jones as absent. And this was actually a $2,000 thank you for closed business. And I can resubmit this, which will update all the figures. All right, the final option under the meeting management is view edit speakers. Now typically this is going to be the secretary treasurer that does this, but it's very easy to get the speaker rotation up into BNI Connect. If we click on view edit speakers, I can go and basically put in a time period, and I can see all of the speakers during that time period. I can see right now that we have speakers entered in through the 6th. Let's say I want to assign speakers for next month. I can go in and click assign. I choose a date that they're going to be speaking. So on August 3rd, let's see, Ricky Martin is going to be performing his new song, in his 10-minute. And now we have Ricky Martin assigned for the 3rd of August. Now, we don't recommend putting in more than about a month or so. Keep in mind that if you need to change out a speaker, you do need to delete them and then put a new speaker in. So there's no way to shift the rotation. You do have to enter, delete, and re-enter speakers at that point. The benefits of putting the speakers into BNI Connect, by the way, is that once a speaker is assigned, so in this case, Ricky Martin, Ricky will get a reminder 6 days before his speaking engagement and 3 days before the speaking engagement. So that'll help to eliminate members showing up to the meeting saying, oh, I forgot I was speaking today. It also reminds the Secretary Treasurer who's speaking 3 days before the meeting. In addition to that, on the chapter website, it will also show all of the upcoming speakers for the next month. So for example, this is my chapter website, BNI Wakefield, and we can see the next month's worth of speakers. So I can see that at tomorrow's meeting, Danielle and Larry will both be giving their 10-minute presentations. And next week, Ken Monroe and Jessica Williams. So this is just a little bit more visibility that these members have on our public website. All right, going back to the operations menu. Again, managing memberships and goals are two special functions. And the final one I'll show you today under the management functions is the mentoring program. So under the mentoring program works very similar to how the speaker rotation works. And we can go in and we can view our list of mentors and mentees and see who might be currently involved in a mentoring pair. So I can see that in January, Harvey mentored Jamie, and in February, Darcy mentored Joe, and in May, BNI Connect mentored John Smith, etc. If I need to assign a new pair, I can click on Add New. I choose the date that they're going to start the mentoring program. Now, what the mentoring program does is it emails the mentor and the mentee. It emails them a weekly email and says, hey, by the way, welcome to week 1 of the mentoring program, week 2 of the mentoring program, week 3 of the mentoring program, and lets them know where they should be in the mentoring process or what they should be concentrating on in that week's mentor meeting. And they'll get, depending on your region, you'll get anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks worth of emails informing them of what to do. What you're choosing here is the day that you'd like to start those emails going out. Keep in mind that you may want them to start going out, for example, on next Monday. So you can choose that. You're going to choose who the mentor is. Let's say Art Garfunkel is going to mentor Marky Mark. And we can go ahead and submit that. And then starting on 8/1, both Art and Marky Mark will end up getting emails informing them of the mentoring program. All right, so that is the various, really the data entry portion of BNI Connect. Before I move on to show you guys about a half dozen reports or so, does anybody have any questions on entering POMS reports or entering speaker rotations or mentors or sending an email to your chapter or anything like that? All right. So John asks, well, what about when a chapter is using the online slips? What happens then? All right, so when a chapter is using the online slips, so for example, my chapter, my personal chapter here in Rhode Island, I'm in the Wakefield chapter. So our chapter does 100% of our activity, our referrals and one-to-ones and everything online in BNI Connect. So if I go to, let me just go to my chapter and show you. When my vice president goes to enter the POMS report after tomorrow's meeting, when people are submitting slips, so from the time my meeting ended last Thursday at 8:31 a.m. through 8:30 tomorrow, all of the slips that are entered will go into a draft copy of the POMS report. So if I go to View POMS, what I will see, let me put a date in here. What I should see here is that for this week's meeting, so tomorrow's meeting, the 7/28, there is a draft copy here. And this is all the online activity that has been passed so far in BNI Connect by the members entering online slips. I can see that by clicking the slips audit report, and it will show me all of the individual activity that was entered. So tomorrow, when my vice president goes in, all they'll have to do is actually to mark the attendance, submit the report, and they're done. All right, so yeah, thank you for that question, John. Does that answer your question? Awesome. All right, so let's take a look at some of the reports. So I'm going to go to the reports menu now. Now, there's a number of different reports. Now, there's about 20 different reports at a chapter level. I am not going to go through all of them today. I'm only going to show you guys about 5 or 6 reports. I want to be respectful of your time and not go too long on this webinar. But what I would recommend that you do is to go into this report menu and just click through all the reports. There's going to be some great information in these reports. You can't break anything in the reports. So you don't have to worry about, about messing up any data or anything. There's just some great information in there. So the very first report, by the way, it's going to look like I'm going through all the reports because most of the important reports are right up here at the top of the list. But the member training report, this is a pretty obvious report. You can find out who's taken various trainings during a time period. But there's a more important use for this report that I want to make sure you understand, and that is that with the Secretary Treasurers, when you're going to enter the speaker rotation into BNI Connect, one of the policies is that in order for a member to be scheduled for a 10-minute presentation in their chapter, they will have had to have taken a member success program. So to find out whether or not they've taken a member success program, one of the easiest ways to do that is to choose this never attended option. So if I choose this never attended option and then I go to member success program and click go, this will show me all of the members in my chapter that have not yet taken the member success program. So that means to me as a Secretary Treasurer that these people should not be scheduled for a 10-minute presentation yet. Now, you can see most of these people recently joined, but I know that I should be going back to these people that joined in March and April and saying, hey guys, how come you haven't taken the member success program yet? And that's an issue for the membership committee to deal with. All right, the second report, it's also a fairly obvious report. It's called the chapter roster report, and this is going to be, you guessed it, your chapter roster. So the important things, though, as a leadership team to think about with this report, the obvious thing is that you want to look at all the members here and make sure that they're listed. If a member is not listed, they aren't going to be in the POMS report. Obviously, there's contact information for the members here. But the other kind of hidden elements about this report, up at the top, it's going to list everybody that is on the leadership team, including all the auxiliary positions like event coordinator and growth coordinator and things like that. If somebody, let's say that your visitor host comes back and says, hey, I've been trying to enter the visitors and I can't enter the visitors into the system. The first thing you should do is check this roster report. If they're not listed as a visitor host, they're not going to have the permissions necessary to do the data entry portion. So if John Smith comes up to me and says, hey, I've been trying to enter the visitors and the option's not there, first thing I would do, go to the chapter roster report. I can see that Jane and Vin are listed as visitor hosts, but John is not listed. So in order for him to have the positions, he would need to be listed. To do that, you do need to contact your regional office. They need to make sure he was trained, has signed the appropriate leadership team agreements, etc. This is also a great place to find your phone number for your director consultant. So if you need to get in touch with your director consultant, that's where you can find their phone number to run any issues or get additional training. The other thing is, looking at the roster, you'll see that there is a quick 90-day view of the POMS report. This is one of my little favorite hidden gems. Part of being on the leadership team is, looking out for your members. What I like to look for is to see, A, how many absences people have in the last 90 days. And if somebody's creeping up there with 2, 3, or 4 absences, we definitely want to talk with them about their attendance. The other thing is with especially one-to-ones. Take a look at how many one-to-ones people are having, and if people look like they're struggling with one-to-ones, we definitely want to reach out to them because that one-to-ones are the gateway to referrals. The next report is the membership dues report. It is very similar to the roster report, except it's going to show you the due dates of all the members. A couple of hidden things about this report. Obviously, it's going to show you all this information at the top. If they're holding a position, what their status is, and what their due date is. At the bottom of the report, it's going to show you people that have joined in the last month, people that are currently late, and people that have left in the last month. But when it comes to the due date, obviously you're going to be at the top of the list, your 2 other leadership team people, because your dues are being frozen while you are performing that position. But the people that are next in the list, so the highlighted people, these are people that should be already in the renewal process. So in this particular case, Brad and Larry are both due on August 1st. We are at July 27th. They should have their renewal applications already in process and submitted. September 1st, we should already be talking with Peter and Ron about that. Now, that's somewhat obvious from a secretary-treasurer standpoint, but from a membership committee standpoint, one thing that you want to be looking at is the people that are not just due in the next 2 months, but the people that are 6 months out. So in this case, right now we're in, pretty much almost in August, so you have August, September, October, November, December, January. So January and February, these are people, so Ron, George, and Claudia in this case, those are people that will be renewing 6 months from now. When it comes to a membership committee standpoint, I want to be reviewing their memberships now so that if there's any adjustments that need to be made, or let's say that they're struggling to give referrals, they're struggling to receive referrals. 6 months is enough time to be able to coach them and to help them to change behaviors or to get them to another training program or engage them, involve them, which will mean that they will be more successful and they'll renew 6 months from now. The people that are already in the renewal process, we can evaluate them, but there's very little we can do to change any behaviors or help them with the process this late in the game. So make sure that you're looking for the people that are 4, 5, 6, 7 months out in order to help them. All right, going down the meeting notes report is a great way to take notes at the meeting. The summary POMS report, this one is a fairly, obvious. This is the bread and butter of our statistical reports. By default, it's going to show us the last 6 months, but we can change these dates. You can choose to show a POMS report for any time period you want to. I can go back 5 years if I want to and look at the POMS statistics for the chapter. Or let's say I just want to go from January 1st. I want to see a year-to-date report, so I'm going to go January 1st of this year, and I'm going to go ahead and choose it through today, and I can click Go, and I can get all the statistics for us for the chapter for this calendar year. One thing to keep in mind is that it is going to hide dropped member names. So right now, anybody that's left the chapter in the past 7 months will not be listed here. However, their contributions will be included in the totals. So report totals include the contributions from dropped members that were active during that time. We're just not showing their names. If you want to see their names, make sure you choose Show Dropped Member Names. And then you'll see all of the members of the chapter. I'm going to jump down to the personal POMS report while we're on the topic. This is a very helpful report for membership committees. When you're reviewing a membership, you can run the personal POMS report for anybody in the chapter. What this report is also really, really helpful for, let's say that a member comes to you and says, hey, by the way, I don't have, or there's something wrong with my POM statistics. I didn't have this many absences, or how come it says that I have 1,000 one-to-ones? More than likely, it was just a data entry error on one of the POMS reports. The easiest way to find that discrepancy is to run this personal POMS report for somebody. So let's say for myself, I can run this for any length of time. So I can run it for 6 months. I can run it for 6 years if I want to. And the nice thing is it's going to show me week by week the activity. And this makes it a lot easier to say, so if John comes back to you and says, yeah, for some reason I have 1,000 one-to-ones, or I have 1,000 CEUs, more than likely that was a thank you for closed business or something that got entered into the wrong column, which means that we can find the exact week that the error might have happened in and be able to go back, unlock that POMS report in order to be able to correct that mistake. All right, there's some other great reports here. There's the sponsor report, the VP reports is just another different view of the POMS report. The member details report, if you're the Secretary Treasurer, if you're going to be introducing a speaker before their 10-minute presentation, you can either chase them down to fill out the piece of paper on the bio, or if they have filled out their profile in BNI Connect, just go to Member Details, View Member Bio, choose them from the list, and this is the exact same set of questions and answers that you hand out with the paper slip. All right, there's also the chapter traffic lights and the visitor reports as well. Two last things I want to show you guys, and I'll open it up for questions as well. Going back to the home page, one thing that you want to look at is that here on the left-hand side we have this ribbon, My BNI Business, My Network Chapter. My Network, if I click this ribbon down one, this is all the social media components, but another very helpful thing from a leadership team perspective is that your region has a set of shared documents. So you can see here my region is sharing 65 documents. If I go in and look at those documents, these have things like, visitor registration or visitor sign-in sheets. This has our member bio sheet or one-to-one discussion points, the gains profile sheet. Team check-in calls, interview questions, all sorts of helpful documents that our region has shared with us. It's also a way to look at various events that are available. But the other important thing is that there's another menu below this that says chapter. And as you start going through BNI Connect and you find your favorite reports and your favorite data entry points, this is your own customizable menu for everything that you have access to. So you can see here that I have just a couple of things on my shortcut menu here. If you want to customize that shortcut menu, just click on the configure button. Anything in the left-hand side is your personal shortcut menu, and everything on the right-hand side is everything else that you have access to. So let's say I'm going to be emailing a visitor invitation a lot. I can click on that, and now it is in my shortcut menu. I can also rearrange the order of it and put that up at the top. Let's say that I'm going to be entering POMS reports a lot. I can click on Enter POMS. I want to put that at the top of my list. I can then save that by clicking Submit. And when I go back there, you'll notice that my report, my shortcuts have changed. So now rather than having to go to enter a POMS report, rather than having to go to Operations, Chapter, Meeting Management, enter POMS. If I'm on my home screen, I can just go to the Chapter ribbon, click Enter POMS, and I'm right in the function. So it saves you a couple of clicks. All right, so we're at about 15 minutes to the top of the hour. So again, I want to be respectful of people's time, but if you have any questions, I would love to answer those questions for you now. While you're typing in any questions or thinking of any questions, just a reminder, this is being recorded. We will be uploading this recording to the support site. Best way to access the support site is to click on the question mark in the upper right-hand corner right here. This question mark up here, that will take you to the support site. And on the support site, you will see all sorts of wonderful things. You can see, for example, the live and recorded webinar. So if you want to see the upcoming webinars, you can click there, and you can also see all the recordings. I'll have a July one up here very shortly. Also on the help site is tons of other, for example, chapter training and documentation. So if you need help for entering chapter goals, for example, under chapter operations, we have entering goals. You can watch a short video on that, or you can see the step-by-step guide on how to perform that function. You can also find those, by the way, if you see there's a little question mark in front of a lot of things, or even if I go to the operations menu, if you click on the little question mark in front of it, that will take you to the help document on just that one particular function. It's a great way to share the information with other people, especially if you're delegating tasks to people. All right, so we do have one question from Leanne. Leanne says, how do you get a chapter to agree to go paperless? Good question. Now, just to keep in mind, I hesitate to say paperless because we still want to make sure that we have paper referrals available at the meeting. We still want to make sure that we're celebrating the activity with the the meeting activity sheet and turning in paper referrals and things like that. But as far as entering them and recording them, there's a couple of different reasons why it's important to do that. Number one, if you're using just plain paper, you're just doing the regular old-fashioned paper slips, all we're recording is the statistics. So that means that the VP goes back, they enter them to the POMS report. We can see how many referrals John passed. We can see how many referrals you received and how much thank you for closed business, but all the detail is lost. So I've been using the online slips for the past couple of years, so that means that I can go back and review every single referral that I've passed since 2012, which gives me a ton of information for my membership. So I can see exactly who am I passing referrals to, what were those referrals, and all the information about them. All that information is lost if I'm just turning in a piece of paper at the meeting. The other reason is that as a VP, don't know if you're a VP or not, Leanne, as a VP, the job is just so much easier. So, we have a chapter of 50 members. It was taking our VP about an hour to an hour and a half on a weekly basis. So our VP just said, hey, listen, we need everybody to do their part. It takes everybody a minute to do their own referrals online in BNI Connect, which now saves the vice president an hour to an hour and a half a week. And that's what we appealed to, and we just said to the chapter, hey, I don't want to spend an hour and a half on a weekly basis doing this. You guys need to enter it online. So we did that at a leadership team transition time. We trained them for a couple of months in advance, and then we just picked a cutover date. So does that answer your question? Does that help, Leanne? And you can always review or send them to our online slips webinar as well. So, all right, do we have any additional questions? All right, if there's no additional questions, I just want to say thank you guys so much for being on the webinar today. I greatly appreciate you being here. Hopefully you found this useful. And again, we do have 2 more webinars in this series that are happening this month, and that is going to be tomorrow. We have our goals program webinar where we'll go into depth on entering goals for leadership teams. And then finally, we have our online renewals walkthrough, which will be on Friday. Again, I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar, and in the meantime, happy connecting.